As we go on this journey of discovering our life purpose and living aligned to it, one of the most important things is to understand why these negative thoughts often comes up in our lives and how we can release them effectively. And one of the great things is that the younger we start to work on this, the less impact it will have with our lives. And I've already made a whole separate video where I run you through this hour-long journey on helping you release whatever trauma or experience that you want to let go. So if you haven't watched that, I will highly recommend you to check that out later on if you're actually interested in actually going in depth and healing from all of these experiences that we have from life. But today, what I actually want to do is approach this in a different way, and more specifically, approach how we deal with guilt and shame through an angle that is less heard of but highly effective. And this approach originates from this concept of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And you can see this is a pyramid right here with 6 different layers. It's like a triangle. And this approach was discovered around 80 years ago, back in 1943, which looks at the universal motivation of all human beings. So how it works is that as we satisfy each level of the pyramid, from the bottom all the way to the top, what happens is that we begin to seek for more fulfillment, which makes us transcend to the next level. And a really simple analogy is to think about school. Once you've mastered all of the content and knowledge needed to pass a grade, right? You go up to the next grade, to the next level, to extend your knowledge further. And it's basically the same thing with this model. So now if we take a look at each level of the model, you'll see that as we humans collectively rise up the pyramids in the long term, we're actually evolving to become more noble individuals operating from our higher values, which you can see in the level of self-actualization and later on self-transcendence. Let's quickly run through each of these stages of the pyramid so then you can get a better understanding of how they can apply to your life, as all humans basically go through the entire process from the physiological needs all the way to self-actualization if you actually awaken during this lifetime. So starting off with the bottom layer, we have the physiological needs. And in this category, you can see that this is going to be the most basic biological requirements for human survival. So things like breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, homeostasis, excretion. So, these are pretty much common things that is required for, us to survive. And the thing with this pyramid is that some people may be stuck in a particular level during their lifetime. So what's most important is to understand why you're actually stuck in that level, and then you can rise upon it and liberate from it, so then you can move on to the next one and get greater and deeper fulfillment. Because what you'll see as you progress along the pyramid is that not only will your level of fulfillment increase, but then the quality of that fulfillment will drastically be stronger than the one from the previous level. So for the physiological level, how people will be stuck in this is if you think about homelessness, right? And having the lack of resources. And this is not really common nowadays, but then we see it back in history when we were tribes ourselves. We were really lacking the resources to survive, right? This is why war happened, when we're trying to all, meet our own needs. And with different people trying to struggle to find clean water, to find food, or find a safe place to sleep. And I guess some of the most common examples with this is looking at some third world countries today. But again, it's really not as bad nowadays, especially with so many countries helping each other and us being more aware of survival needs and being able to develop more technologies. But then there are still people who are stuck on the physiological level. So then this is what they need to satisfy in order to move on to the next level, which is our safety needs. So safety means when people seek for security and seek for stability. And this is most commonly seen in society where everyone's trying to seek for financial security, right? And that's why they do a lot of this and they pursue this career in hopes to get stability in their life and also in hopes to be healthy and be happy. And I think one of the big things that we'll see is that from history, we've translated from having the physical danger of, hunting every single day and having the fear of being attacked by other tribes to having more of like a mental danger in the present day. So this is going to be like having fear of this happening, even though we know that it's an illusion, or being stressed out about this thing, right? And what we ultimately seek is having stability and having resources to be able to survive. And on this level, how some people may be stuck is if they experience some kind of abusive household when they're young, right? For example, like we see all over the news, there's criminals and there's people being physically and mentally abused. And another way to be stuck on this level is if you face severe financial instability, right, where people are unable to fund their own survival needs, which causes them to become neurotic and causes them to feel like they're not safe, which makes them act irrationally. So that's going to be the safety level. And then moving upwards, after we've satisfied both the physiological and the safety level, we have the level of love and belonging. So at this level, individuals desire meaningful relationships, the emotional connections, and basically this sense of belonging through family, friendships, or community. And you can see this everywhere where people are trying to, come together in groups. And one of the big examples that pop up in my mind is, watching a sports game where everyone comes together, right? You really seek this level of emotional connection where you're actually fighting for something together, or protests in general, activists, or even in school, like when you all come together and you have like a talent show or something like that. And how people may be stuck on this level is if they may face constant rejection, or if they are not accepted into a group, or if they just face isolation where they cannot find the group of people who resonate with them or who speaks their language. And this may be from like social anxiety or traumatic past experiences, or facing discrimination, loneliness, which causes them to be stuck on these levels. And then moving on to the next phase of the pyramid, which is esteem. People seek recognition, respect, and confidence, and having the sense of accomplishment from both others and from themselves. And this includes like external validation and internal validation. And what you'll see is that I would say most people are going to fall between these two categories, which is esteem and love and belonging, somewhere in the middle, maybe to a higher degree or a lower degree, depending on your own personal experiences. But you can see from everyone around society, we're all trying to pursue this accomplishment, this achievement, going to this college, doing it for the ranking, pursuing this career because it looks fancy, and doing all of these things to validate ourselves in the society, right? To put metrics so then we can be recognized. And how we may be stuck is that a lot of the time, many people have low self-esteem. And this is due to receiving a lot of criticism or doubting your own self-worth. And this may be due to some kind of like conditioning or some kind of childhood experience that you have, which causes you to lack the confidence with yourself. And you can see how that leads to a lot of neurotic reactions where people will pursue something based on fear, right? Not based on love. And that really stops them from helping them transcend to the next level, which is self-actualization. And what self-actualization is it is realizing one's full potential by discovering your values, your gifts through self-awareness. And I actually want to add on to this, which is also delayering all of the conditioning that has been happening to you through your childhood and really accepting who you are, which I think is a huge part of self-actualization. And people who you can find in this level are like artists, entrepreneurs, people who are creating things out of love, out of passion. And maybe it's authors and people who are in the creative industry. A lot of the time they're doing something based on what feels authentic and what aligns with them. And then afterwards, you have at the top of the pyramid self-transcendence, which is, according to the pyramid, truth, spirit, consciousness, being, and unconditional love. Self-actualization and self-transcendence is like basically similar things. Like the line is pretty blurry between the category. But then once you begin to self-actualize yourself and realize your potential and start integrating it, then you'll move more towards self-transcendence and living aligned. And I would say it's probably going to take quite a while to reach self-transcendence, as there's lots of integration and there's lots of delayering and deconditioning that you'll have to do in order to really unconditionally love everything, right? And really just be. And this concept of being is just being yourself, being your authentic self, right? Not doing something based on others people's expectations, but really doing and accepting who you are on the inside and living your unique design every single day. Normally what you'll see with this level is people who are going beyond this self, right? Even some people discussing the concepts of leaving your own self, where you're helping others through like altruism and developing these spiritual connections and contributing to a greater purpose that is beyond your own self. So then what you actually see is that life purpose actually sounds like a pretty like selfish idea to a certain extent, because you're focusing on your own talents and your own self. But then we have to go through the concept of life purpose and find our life purpose in order to reach the next level, which is unconditional love. Because once you get to the point of just transcending everything and just loving everything that you can see, and this might sound pretty bizarre if you're hearing this for the first time, you'll start to realize that you're not clinging on to this purpose to find your own fulfillment, but then you just do it because this is who you are. I think that's two different things, because in life purpose, you're still seeking for fulfillment, right? You're still seeking for the thing that makes you feel happy and gives you the joy. And to a certain extent, that's pretty self-oriented. But then in self-transcendence, you go even beyond that level. So that's overall the pyramid, right? And one of the big learnings is you have to serve yourself first before you can serve others, because only through accepting and loving yourself are you able to discover the gifts that you're here for in life, and then use that to help other people. Because in the first place, if you're unable to ground yourself in this world and find what you're great at, then how are you going to help others effectively? You're probably going to do not a great job, right? So you can see how this pyramid just goes step by step to show you how you have to fulfill each aspect first and build upon it. It's just like a house, right? You have to build upon it, build the foundations first, and then eventually you'll move up to greater things that will give you greater fulfillment and greater fruits in life. So once you understand this pyramid, you should be able to understand that all of the past experiences that you have, no matter if it's challenges or if it's things that are positive and that brings lots of meaning to you, is a necessary stage for you to develop to become the person that you are today, right? So once you understand and you see that everyone's going through like something similar, then you can be more open-minded to accept it rather than guilting yourself. Because sometimes I still find myself, saying, oh, why did I do this? Why did I waste so much time in the past? But then once you know that this is part of your process of being a greater being and being awakened, then you start to accept that that's the past, and then you move on from it, because the last thing that you want to do is really cling onto it. And some of the common traps that I see when people start to understand this concept is that you have this type of people who just normally get stuck at one aspect of the pyramid, and then you start making excuses why you're not reaching self-actualization. And you just keep falling into this victim mindset and living life in petty ways, and start blaming that, oh, I need to be accomplishing, love and belonging first, and I need to be accomplishing esteem first. But the thing with these pyramid, which I find with all of these different models, is that there's really no specific metric for you to hit, right? Because in society right now, we're programmed and we're trained to, reach a specific metric in order to become, like, for example, like a millionaire. You have to have $1 million in the bank, right? Or if you want to graduate, you need to have a specific GPA. But then with these pyramids, it's more like something that you feel for yourself. And you can automatically see which phases of the pyramid you're in, and you could be in multiple different phases just based on like observing yourself. Like, what are you naturally inclined towards? So for example, if you're someone who's like still super clinging to like sexual intimacy, then you might be in the love and belonging stage more. Maybe that's clogging your mind a lot, right? But then it's also pretty important to be aware of the environment that you're placing in, because that can play a huge role. Like, the people around you can be affecting which aspect of your life you're most worried about right now. So for example, if you're in school and everyone's trying to get into university, obviously you're going to have the pressure to apply to a lot of these schools. And what you may realize is that this might actually not be your true, genuine stage of evolution that you're in. it's very important to definitely spend more time just being alone yourself, so then you can actually see what is authentic to you and which stage you're in, so then you can work upon that. And then you also have the other side of the spectrum, which is you have those people who just jump straight into self-actualization, right? And they ignore fulfilling all of the bottom levels of their needs, thinking that, self-actualization sounds like a great thing. We really need to do that right now. And the problem with that is, because this is a pyramid and because this is your house, if you don't have the foundation down, then you'll instantly crash really quickly without getting to further places. Because if you think about it, one person needs to first learn how to walk before they can run a marathon, right? You need to build onto your life step by step before you can accomplish something bigger. And there's really no point of rushing. And really, it's about self-honesty, whether or not you're willing to be genuine with yourself. Because a lot of the times you might lie to yourself and say that, oh yes, I already have my physiological safety needs met, when in reality, you're still dealing with that right now. So just accept where you are and be excited, because there's a whole pyramid for you to conquer, and really everyone is on different paths. And the best way to go with this pyramid is just enjoying your time in each of the levels and eventually ascending to the next one when you're ready. And another insight that I have when I started thinking about this pyramid and its applications with my life is that you need to start also testing different balances for the different areas in your life and seeing what comes natural to you. Because what you realize is that some people will require more friendship versus others who may require more self-esteem and more confidence. And this balance is unique for everyone. So that's why, again, there's no specific quantitative metric for you to know in order to ascend the pyramid, but it really is based on your authentic and genuine feelings from the inside, right? So start really just feeling how you feel about each level and see whether or not you're ready to ascend to the next stage. Another misunderstanding of people who go onto this journey of self-actualization is, once you start reaching the higher stages, a lot of people may dismiss the lower stages, but then this is actually not the point of the pyramid. The point of the pyramid is you build upon each stage. So once you reach self-actualization, for example, you will still have to look after your physiological safety, belonging, and esteem needs, because those are like the building blocks for you to be able to reach self-actualization and really sustain that. So then it's important to not guilt yourself, right? Not fall into the cycle of telling yourself, oh my days, I still have to eat food, even though I know that only brings me low levels of fulfillment compared to something like creating something bigger and bringing more impact, right? So it's still very important to accept that these are basic human needs and just find beauty and just enjoy these things as being part of human. So yeah, that was a quick run through of this whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid. So hopefully you get a better understanding that humans are evolving through this pyramid, and this can help you realize that you're just part of the evolution, and it doesn't really matter which stage you're in, but as long as you're able to accept that we're all evolving and we're all growing as an entire species, as an entire collective consciousness, that's going to be the most important thing, right? To stop you from guilting yourself from saying, oh, why did I do that in the past? But then now you understand that this is part and this is necessary for your growth, right? Everything that you do will eventually play out to help you grow to become a better being in the future. So, be kind to yourself sometimes, because one of the things that is super hard nowadays is when you make comparisons to other people, and when you see everyone just taking action all the time, you feel like you miss out. But then if you sometimes just take the time to step back and realize all of these fears and how much you've grown in the past few years, you'll start to give yourself more self-love and really live more joyfully rather than feeling rushed, feeling depressed. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.